Hey, it's Fitz, and if you don't know who I am, here's a quick bio. I'm a veteran sports journalist who writes, does TV, radio, daily YouTube videos, and I'm a longtime podcaster. Also, I have metastatic stage 4 prostate cancer that came out of remission in 2023. During the pandemic, my doctors advised me to stay at home, and the Life of Fitz podcast was born. 5 years later, I'm back in my cancer battle and continuing this podcast with season 6. As I call the many people I've met through my 35 years in sports journalism, and those who are involved in my cancer journey. Plus, we'll add in a few friends we've met along the way who are facing their own obstacles in life. Welcome to my life and the Life of Fitz podcast. Presented by the great people at Blueville Nursery in Manhattan. Boy, this season flew by. I felt like I just had my first interview. And here we are, the final episode of season 6 of Life of Fitz, and what a guest we have. He is a K-State legend in so many ways, and yet he never played football, basketball, any ball at K-State that I know of. Mitch Holthus, the former voice of the Wildcats, the current voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. If there's one guy that really knows the history of Kansas State football, look, I feel like I do, but Mitch knows everything about the Snyder era and the founding of what we now enjoy, because he was here before Bill Snyder arrived, and he was part of the team that helped create what Kansas State football is. I know he was just the radio play-by-play guy, but he had a profound effect on so many things behind the scenes. He started the Junior Wildcat Club. He also helped plan the very first pep rally that took place at the Copper Bowl. That story and many more are coming up in this episode of Life of Fitz as we wrap up season 6, and this is episode number 100 of this podcast. I'm really fired up to talk to Mitch and bless him for making time in the middle of Chiefs camp. He carved out about 45 minutes for us to record, and it turned out to be great. Probably could have done well over an hour, but here we go. Let's connect with Mitch Holthus, but he's not in Kansas City, Missouri. Like I said, he's actually in St. Joe at camp. And now from his bunker in St. Joe, Missouri, as training camp presses on for the Kansas City Chiefs, is the one and only Mitch Holthus, former voice of the Wildcats, current voice of the Chiefs. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Good. Morgan Freeman's here. We have a little lunch, get the worms to Brooke so he can feed the birds, and we're good. We got to de-lice again? You just don't want to change the movie reels. You want to get out of that job. That's a bad job.
He's living in the dorms, basically. It's how he rolls. It's big time radio right there.
No, it's big time. Radio, social, all that. It's big time. Cinder blocks, great.
Let's go back to your start at Kansas State pre-Bill Snyder. You're a great person to talk about the rise. As Bill Snyder always said, it didn't rise out of the sand like Las Vegas. It took some work. But you saw it before him, and then you saw it with him. When did you know Bill Snyder was the real deal?
I saw glimpses of it the first spring, which was the spring of '89 when he first came in. Even though we didn't have much talent. And one of the things, we tried to do some things to have in place. We were trying to put together some marketing infrastructure. One of the things when I got inducted in the Hall of Fame, and I just love the place so much, but there was more there than I did than just being the voice of the Wildcats. And we were trying to put things in place. We just needed the right guy to show up, and he did. But that first spring, you just saw it was different. Mm-hmm. Attention to detail, his schemes, his thoughts, the way he approached every day, and he made you approach every day. And I thought, yeah, this is different. This guy knows what he's doing. He's got a pedigree, and why not? What do we have to lose? Because we're at the bottom.
Yeah, no doubt. What was amazing about Coach is he was who he is from day one.
Yep.
And he didn't just expect that attention to detail from his players and his coaches. He's a brilliant coach of coaches. Everyone associated with the program, he thought, you got to do better. And he didn't really need to tell you, you felt it. You wanted to be a part of it, and you didn't want to be lagging behind. I don't know how he did it, Mitch. I don't know how it's almost like he cast a spell over everyone, said, it's over. Let's go. Let's get to work.
Yeah. Steve Miller is not given enough credit.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry to hear he passed recently. Steve was a brilliant administrator. We know he's a track coach, but the fact that Steve kind of at least laid a little bit of found work, ran some concrete, so to speak, as an analogy. And Coach just had this feeling of, yeah, we can do it here. I always thought, man, worked so hard and kept fighting. I've lived this twice. I've lived it here.
Mm-hmm.
We were awful. We were phytoplankton at the end of, which is the lowest organism in the ocean. In 2012, we had a player murder his girlfriend. It was Jamal Charles' wife's cousin, and they were close as sisters. Then he killed himself on our front steps. Now, we didn't have that at K-State, but I lived this twice because Coach Reid was Coach Snyder in changing everything. But you also saw you felt like there was a reason for this. It wasn't like, and I've lived the other side where you're gargling hydrochloric acid before you go to work. With Coach Reid and Coach Snyder, and let's say Coach Snyder back in '89, and he was challenging all of us to be better. But you sense that it was for a reason. There wasn't I'm just going to do it because I can, or I'm going to do it because I'm going to test you, or I've got some kind of OCD or some kind of, complex. It was, if he's doing it, you gave him the benefit of the doubt of going, wonder what the reason is here. And sometimes you didn't see the reason immediately, but you saw it down the line. And so I just appreciated him so much in those 7 years that we were together. And again, I'm proud. It started the Junior Wildcat Club.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Started the Cat Chat. I mean, we didn't have any of that stuff. And I'm thinking, man, why can't we be Clemson? Why can't we be Auburn? The land grant school. I go Florida State. I mean, these land grant schools win. Like, why can't we do that? So you tried to treat it as much big time as you could, but there just wasn't much there after the run to the Elite Eight and with Richmond and those guys and Steve Henson. But with Coach, it was just so fun. Again, I lived it twice because you rise, and once you start the rise, it's really fun because you just start popping people off one by one by one. And then they realize something is drastically different. And so those years, even starting in 91, I felt sorry for those guys. Every year was special. 89 got the North Texas win. And I went nuts on that one. And I love it that they've got it up verbatim on the wall when you go up on the suites, one of the upper levels. I love it. Hernandez, you got it. We beat an FCS team, although they were number one in the country. And we thought we'd won the Super Bowl. But then the next year, 90, to win those two Big 8 games. And then Coach did something that I wanted to do. I wanted to do from the very beginning before even Coach got there. And we had taken the money games in our non-conference. And I just hated that. We even played Vanderbilt one game at Vandy, never got a return game. And I was like, what are we doing? And so we'd play TAC. We played TAC one year and they didn't get a return game. And so Coach, and I remember going to Jim Epps with a list of teams of going, let's get these teams. I know we got to somehow produce revenue, but we also have to start winning. Well, then nobody would listen to me, or they needed the money. And then Coach goes, no, we're going to do that. And that's when we started to schedule teams we could beat to start to build the program. We took crap for it, but we were beating them. And so all of a sudden now we're going 3-1 in the non-con. I do remember playing that Washington team that might have been one of the top 3 best teams in the history of college football, behind the 2003 Miami Hurricanes. But these guys, 2001 Miami Hurricanes, but that 90 Washington team was unbelievable. But the point is, Coach started to implement that. And then he goes, hey, we got to play Oklahoma anyway. We need the money. Let's sell Oklahoma's games. So instead of going and getting pounded by LSU, we'll go to Oklahoma and take the money. And it played right into Coach's hands. I loved it. They just said, all right, here it is. And yep, we went down every year. We got closer. And then they finally had to come to Manhattan in 93. And that was the Exodus chapter 14 game when people thought I was speaking in tongues. But all this was fun. It was fun. Yeah. We're just popping them off one by one. And then OU played right into our hands. Thank you, OU.
Yeah, that measurement against OU was so important.
Mm-hmm.
It was the goal. They were out there, and I appreciate OU for being that standard bearer. That's the program you want to chase down first. You had Nebraska out there, Colorado's up and down, but Oklahoma, for whatever reason, is what Bill Snyder zeroed in on, and he closed that gap. And the amazing thing about Bill Snyder to me, and I can't explain it, I've never seen another coach do it, with very few exceptions, when he got on top of you in terms of beating you, he didn't let you win again. He just kept beating you. And I still can't explain how he did it, but if you lost to Bill Snyder, there's a good chance you were in trouble for many years. And that's what he did. And, kind of drove OU to steal from Kansas State indirectly to rebuild, and it worked.
Let me tell you who else has done that.
Who's that?
Who else is exactly like that? Is Andy Reid.
Really?
He's crushed this division.
Yeah,
He's won it 9 straight years. And this division had the Raiders have won 15, the Chargers have won 15, the Broncos have won 15. We've won 17. We were at 8. He won 9 in a row. Coach Reid, Coach Snyder, the same thing. Zeroed in on those teams.
Yep.
I mean, we beat the Broncos 15 straight times. And he was getting close to Kansas. The 90 game bothered him. They ran the fake punt. Those were good Kansas teams now. They had some good players. And the 92 team was really good. Stubblefield and those NFL guys crushed us 38-7. But you could sense that was getting closer to flip. And then the 1994 Thursday night game in Lawrence flipped it. And then it's never been really the same since, other than the Ron Prince 3 years. There's only been one loss to Kansas since the 94 Thursday night game that was a non-Ron Prince coach team. And so, and they're good. They're coming. It's going to be tough this year. But the point is, once coach comes after you, he comes after you.
Yep.
But Andy Reid does the same thing. He won the NFC East 8 out of 14 years. And I've seen us with this team now. We spend spring days. We spend mini camp days, even training camp days on the division opponents. He's going to get you down, and he's going to pin you like a great wrestler.
Yep, very true. Ron Prince is the human asterisk. Whatever happened during it, there's a little dot next to that. What a fiasco.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you departed in 96. Was 96 your last season, K-State?
My last football season was 95.
95
Holiday Bowl. And then my last basketball game was the NCAA loss to New Mexico.
I say the Holiday Bowl, that Holiday Bowl was the moment we all realized, holy crap, this is real. This is our third bowl game at Kansas State in a row. But Hawaii, nobody really went.
There's a good Boston College defense.
Yeah, we kept running into really good players along the way. But that 95 game, that pep rally, that was a moment when I think it all kind of really felt tangible. Copper Bowl was fun. The next season was good. But 95, that bowl game seemed to bring it all together and start something special.
Good Colorado State team, and Sonny Lubick, a heck of a coach. I'll tell you the pep rally story. It happened. So let's go back to 93. And I'm thinking, man, we could go to a bowl. The 91 team got robbed because of the old rule that if you had 2 FCS wins, whatever. But then we lost Iowa State in the streaker game. And thinking, oh, man, we just need one more win. And then we got the win over Missouri. I remember thinking, am I going to get a bowl ring out of this? So I'm like, coach was always good about peeling me off the ceiling. And I go to see him and I go, man, we're all excited. We're going to a bowl. And he goes, hey, I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay. And he goes, at Iowa, we always had big bowl prep rallies. You're going to set that up. I'm like, what? Like, you're going to set it up. I'm like, what? So I drive home with my stomach in knots. Instead of celebrating a bowl victory, I'm going, oh, my God, we've got to have a bowl pep rally. So I put Amy Button-Rins was great in this, Jenny Meekaroni, Ed O'Donnell. Let's see who else was involved in this. Bernie Haney. But we're like, we got to figure this out because I don't want to let coach down. If we have some pep rally and like 20 people show up, he's going to come right for me. Well, it was the Weston La Paloma up in the hills in Tucson. And it was the feeding of the 5,000. It was the field of dreams. People came from everywhere. It was a hard place to get to, and here they came. And that night was unforgettable. That's the night, if you say the Holiday Bowl, then I would agree with that, because that pep rally night and the whole Copper Bowl experience really was a fuse lit.
Yeah.
And then to blow out Wyoming, they weren't as good as Colorado State in 95, but they weren't bad. Yarbrough's a good player. Joe Tiller coached that team, went on to, coach Purdue later. We saw that. And then, that pep rally night was unreal. And I remember we replayed the play-by-play of Moses parting the Red Sea, and I could still see those guys walking in. I get emotional that they parted, and here came Quentin New Year leading the way. And these guys came in and filed one by one through these thousands of Chiefs fans thousands of K-State fans who had come into the Westin La Paloma, much to the chagrin of the Arizona fire marshal. And it was a moment. I thought, oh my gosh, maybe we are Clemson or Auburn or the real good land-grant teams, and that's precisely what it became. And so, that in 95, and then it took off from there.
93 seemed to me like the venting of all the pent-up frustration.
Yeah.
Going to a bowl game, let's all go to that pep rally, and it did. It felt like almost an exorcism. This is real. This is real. And then, there was just something about that Holiday Bowl pep rally, though. There was rumors of coach leaving, and it just came together. And
I think didn't he announce at the pep rally he was staying?
Yeah, I think he was.
Carl Peterson was involved in that because he's a UCLA guy, and he was kind of pushing to get him. And I remember looking over at Bob Stoops, who was still DC that year, and I know Bob was, probably going to be the heir apparent.
Yep.
And I just looked over when I think Coach says I'm staying, everybody goes nuts, and I looked over at Bob, and Bob was like, "Man, probably my cue to go." Then he went to Florida to be DC, but. Yeah, that pep rally, because it went from the Westin La Paloma and the feeding of the 5,000 to now we're having it in basketball arenas, right, with tens of thousands. So I just love what it started, and how it started, how organic it was, and to exercise demons or whatever out of the program seemed to be a lot of them purged that night in Tucson and that night in San Diego.
Yeah, I agree. And you depart. What was it? I mean, it's a great opportunity, but was it difficult to leave that to go to the Chiefs, or is it just so comfortable because you didn't even have to move? I mean, you can live in the same damn house.
Well, it was so I was turned down. I got the finalist to be for the Bears job. Nobody knew about that. That'll be in the book someday. So there were close calls: Atlanta Falcons, Vikings, and even Royals Television, super close, didn't get it. And then the Chiefs job opened up. Harlan was going into the network, and I'd filled in for Harlan in 91. The year we went 7-4 at K-State, I did the opening game against the Atlanta Falcons because Harlan was auditioning for NBC. It's crazy. He took a real game and audition. But the point was then that happened, and it was competitive to get it, but I got it. And then for 2 years, I did them both. Now I'm not doing all the stuff. I actually have 3 jobs now. And at K-State, I had 2.5 jobs. But then I didn't have 3 jobs when I first got the Chiefs job, or I wouldn't be able to pull it off. But I did for 2 years, I did both teams. And that'll be in the book too. That was maniacal.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was nasty. So, we beat OU in 93, so it's odd years, 95. 94, we're at OU, and I tell Coach, I can't do your TV show. I was still doing his TV show. And he goes, yeah, you're going to do it. I said, no, there's no way. It was like a 2:30 start time in Norman, and I've got to get to Buffalo, New York. And the Chief said, you can do both, but you will not miss a game because of K-State, or you can be fired. So I was trying to figure it out. You can't get from Norman, Oklahoma to Buffalo, New York. To get there from a late afternoon finish to a 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central Time game. I go, Coach, can't do it. And he goes, yeah, you are. I'll figure it out. All right. So all those things we talked about earlier builds up equity with Coach. So he stops his news conference. We go down in folding chairs at the end zone. It pounded OU. And we do a show. And then he goes, I got it lined up. He points at the end zone, and it's a Oklahoma Highway patrolman. He's waving at me. I go, let's go. And I go sprinting over there with all my stuff. He's got his lights on. We're going down the sidewalk so we can get to Westheimer Field, which is there right there on campus. And I think, right there, right on campus, they have an airfield. And so Ernie Barrett, along with Coach, had arranged somebody at a King Air. So I jump in a King Air, fly to O'Hare, be pre 9/11 days, so I could. But I'm in a FBO. I'm not at the gate, arranging a golf cart to get to the gate. And I remember getting to the gate 10 minutes before my flight left for Buffalo. And I thought, I haven't eaten. I remember grabbing a slice of pizza and getting in before the doors shut. And then I got to the hotel. I don't know what time it was, but that happened over and over and over. And another time I had to leave a game early, 95. We had to play Seattle. And it was a night game against Temple. Well, I knew that my drop dead time was going to be 9 p.m. And Russ Briggs had allowed an opportunity, and Coach lines up a highway patrolman. They're out there somewhere. I don't know who they are, down the sidewalk, and gets me to a plane, flies me to the FBO in Kansas City, golf cart over to the main terminal, and go running up to try to get a flight with a 3-hour layover in Las Vegas before I had to get to Seattle. I got to Seattle at about 5 a.m. Oh. And I remember our equipment guys were starting to come out to go to the stadium early. And I'm like, God, do I sleep? What do I do here? And I just thought, man, I can't do this for much longer. So it lasted 2 years, but wow, what a toll.
And Greg Sharpe moves in to the job.
Yep.
What a back-to-back. You guys, different styles, but elite.
Yep.
And then I don't want to get into the WIBW, that whole network mess. But Greg eventually is out, partially by his choice.
I will. I'll get into it. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Greg waited, and he waited his turn. He was in the on-deck circle, finally came up to the plate, and they took his bat away. Like, it was not and I talked to Tim Weiser about it. I said, no, this is not a good thing, but he wouldn't listen. And believe me, knowing the parties that were involved, and so it wasn't like I was just coming out of left field, but it broke my heart. I love K-State through and through, but it's not been without some heartbreak at different places. And I just felt awful for Greg, but I loved it that he got a chance to do Nebraska. He did an awesome job.
He did. He was amazing at Nebraska. And I don't mean this as a slight to our alma mater, but being the voice of the Huskers, being able to call a game in that sea of red, it's got to be one of the best college venues. It's a great fan base. They're, for the most part, they're really good people like K-State. And with his passing, to see how beloved he was at Nebraska, not being, since they left the conference, I never saw them. I never ran into Greg at games. To know that he held that kind of position in their hearts, I'm like, that's Greg.
Yep.
That's Greg. I mean, he's just such a professional at what he does.
The two schools are more similar than people realize. Right. And I grew up 10 miles from the Nebraska border, northwest of Smith Center in Smith County. And those four counties, Philip, Smith, Jewell, and Republic County, are actually seen as the Lincoln Hastings Kearney DMA. So there's four counties in Kansas that the advertising television world sees as Nebraska. That's where I grew up. So we got inundated with all their stuff. Plus, my paternal side and maternal side all are from Nebraska. So we grew up with it. I remember in '68, I was a little kid. My dad was just calling random numbers because he was so happy that K-State shut out Nebraska. But that fan base is very similar. And the fan base in Nebraska is very much like the Chiefs, too, because it's a 365-day awareness. Mm-hmm. Like, there is no off season. Like, yeah. Greg would do that show. I'd be driving up to speak in Lincoln or Omaha for an appearance, and I'm listening to a show on June the 9th, and they're going through the 3-star recruit who may visit, and it was like, wow. But that's the way the Nebraska people are. They're that nuts. And it was Greg did an incredible job And there's a rivalry there. Nebraska's got a little, I mean, the closest Division I school that plays football at the FBS level is K-State to Nebraska. It's not Iowa State. It's not Kansas. We're the closest. So when K-State started to become good, believe me now, I've lived on both sides of this. It kind of bothered the Huskers a little bit, particularly when K-State became a national power. But Greg was able to be – he was able to dive in to what makes the Husker Nation awesome. And he immediately identified with – Alliance and Scotts Bluff and Broken Bow and Wood River and all of that. And he became endeared to them. And it wasn't easy to do because they knew he was a K-State guy. So he did a phenomenal job. I just was heartbroken. He got basically shoved out of K-State with a bad decision.
Yep.
It ended up being bad. It turned out bad, sorry, and forewarned. But then to go to Nebraska and flourish. The only thing that broke my heart about Greg, he didn't get those great Nebraska teams. He was getting 8-4, 7-5. And even though they're passionate, they were not used to that. And the Big Ten move just has not been good for football for them.
It was a disaster.
And I remember I went to, so I'm kind of a closet Northwestern fan, less since Fitzgerald got pushed out. That was a bad deal. But I took my son, we went to Northwestern and Nebraska in 2011. And Nebraska didn't know who these guys were, like N, Purple, it's in K-State. Who are these guys? Like, and Fitz didn't care. He just, and so he wins 28-25 because the 80,000 seat stadium was like the 7th largest in the Big Ten. I mean, the Big House has like twice that, or 30% more. Anyway, the point is Nebraska's dealt with moving to the Big Ten. And even though Greg did an awesome job of navigating that, he didn't get the Tommy Frazier run against Florida. He didn't get those moments. He got tough moments and giving up 75 to KU in a game, but Greg handled it. He was such a pro.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you hear about his illness?
Trying to think. I'm trying to get the timeline correct. So this is August. Was it? Maybe it was last summer. Yeah, I don't remember. All that's a blur.
Yeah,
I just remember hearing it and thinking this isn't good. No. Greg will try to fight it. Amy Leach Sharpe is as good as they get. His girls are awesome. And I thought this isn't good. He'll fight it all he can, but wow, tough. I don't have to tell you this. I mean, and then just to see it kind of go down further and further. And then checking in with him last summer, his goal was to get to the UTEP game. And, we kind of pushed through the prayers, and he was just going week to week. And he was going to do them from home. He wasn't going to travel to road games. And then Amy got an interesting call because there was someone in Omaha, one of their boosters or a booster, that went to the family and said, "What do you want?" And they said the girls wanted to go to a Chiefs game. And so it was a Monday nighter game. It worked out perfect. I think it's Nebraska's bye week. And we played the Saints on a Monday night, and here they came. And it was Greg and Amy and the girls and the new son-in-law. And they chopped it up. And for one night, they can forget everything and just be having the time of their lives. It was awesome to see that. And then the wedding. He was trying to get to the wedding. And, but I love the pastor because he did just a little family gathering of just the family. And she got to wear a wedding dress in front of Greg. I mean, I just can't imagine how emotional this would have been. But I wanted to make that wedding. Wanted to make UTEP, make it through the season, get to the wedding, and he almost got there. But he at least got to see her in the dress, and they had a family ceremony. So whoever that pastor is, I don't know him. I'd like to give him a fist pump.
Yep. Pancreatic cancer is the worst of the worst. And he fought that crap all the way to the end.
Yep.
I mean, it was amazing because, a lot of people don't last but 3 months. Once that form of cancer is, you can't really diagnose it until it's advanced.
Yep.
And he got the worst of it. It was that was hard for me. That hit home. When you start seeing, Greg with cancer and Dana Dimmel suddenly dying, I'm like, what is going on here? I've had some guys that people wouldn't know that have passed way too early. This is so cliche. We don't value the days that we have. We just don't value. And that's the biggest thing. I would say cancer made me a better man, because now I'm aware this day's a gift.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Psalm 90:12 was a Mosaic Psalm, but it's teaching me to number my days, O Lord, that might present to thee a heart of wisdom. And basically that verse is centered around what you just said. That is that honestly, we just kind of take for granted these days that we have. And we need to give kudos here to Amy. Amy was so good.
She's amazing
through that entire process, so brave and so strong, and incredible partner through all that. And so, yeah, those girls and Amy, they get a letter jacket for this one.
Yep. Let's take a short break and hear from our sponsor, Blueville Nursery.
For competitively priced landscape design, irrigation, and lawn maintenance, turn to Blueville Nursery, a family-owned business with more than 50 years of experience. You can trust the Blueville team to design and create a landscape that will accentuate your property's aesthetics. And visit our garden store 6 days a week for the best products in the area. From ornamental trees, shrubs, and flowers, Blueville has it all. Blueville Nursery, located on West Anderson Avenue in Manhattan, Kansas.
Now, let's return to the studio. So let's talk about Andy Reid and the Chiefs. That was just a brilliant hire. And in so many ways, he kind of petered out in Philly, and a coach that gets to hit the reset is often really dangerous. And he did. He reset, and he's now built something far superior to what he ever had in Philly. And how's it been seeing that from the inside?
Incredible. And there's so many stories that have not been told. One of the adages of the NFL, you don't hire the coach that won the Super Bowl, because the amount of coaches that have won a Super Bowl with the second franchise is zero. Two of our guys in our division are trying, with Pete Carroll and with Sean Payton. So who do you hire? You hire the guy that almost won the Super Bowl. Dungy, Gruden, you would go right down the line of all these guys. Cowher, they barely got there. You hire those guys. And so Andy Reid, but here's Fitz, and Andy's such a phenomenal human being. He gets the spirit of the human spirit. But he and Tammy almost needed us as much as we needed them. It had ended in Philly. He had been incredible there, 14 years in that market, and owned that division. He just couldn't win the big one. He had Donovan McNabb, vomiting on his shoes. They lose narrowly to New England. But they lost their son, Garrett, who committed suicide at training camp in 2012. He kind of needed this too. He needed the right potting soil for he and Tammy and the kids to plant their next chapter of their life. And I tell this publicly when I speak. I talk about the power of listening. But he talked about Lamar Hunt Sr. listening to him when he became the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. He had never been a coordinator or head coach. And Philly hires him, and he was just the big punt, pass, and kick kid. That's what he was. Or Favre's pool boy. I do remind him of blowing out Missouri in 91 when he was on that staff, but he would remind me of the 92 game and the 90 game. But anyway, he also needed this, but he knew the Hunts opened the door for him to flourish. Everything changed because Coach, instead of the GM, the ownership family, or Clark being CEO, chairman, there was always the GM, and then there was the coach and the next tier. And he said, that's not going to fly. If we're even going to get to second base in this discussion. Coach has direct report to you, Clark. So does the GM. So does the president. We have a parallel line. That was a big change no one talks about. But once that started to roll, I mean, we were awful the year before. Didn't win an AFC game. We won a game without having a lead. Try that. And then the next year we started 9-0. It was very similar to K-State. It was like the 91 season for K-State. We started 9-0. We lose in the playoffs and gave up a 24-7 lead to the Colts. But you still knew something was different. You knew that it was like, wow, the infrastructure is really strong, because it wasn't just Coach coming. It was like when Coach Snyder came, because who came with him? Here came the Stoops boys. Here came Levitt. Here came Bob Cope. Here came these guys who were good coaches who wanted to be with Coach Snyder, or at least, had that level. It's just level. Well, here came Tobe. Here came Doug Peterson. Here came all these quality coaches, Nagy, that had been around coach at either UTEP or Philly or Green Bay or San Francisco State, in the case of Tom Melvin. And I'm like, who are these guys? These guys are sharp. And then, boom, we take off. And then we had to break through. The breakthrough there was the 2015 playoff win. First time in 21 years we'd won a playoff game. That was I don't let Chiefs fans forget that, because they're like, oh, that was some innocuous. No, that was a big deal, much like K-State and what they did in the early years of Bill. And then who would have thought that it would be 3 Super Bowl championships in 5 years, 9 straight AFC West titles, 7 straight AFC championship games. It's never happened in the history of the league. The Patriots didn't do that. So to see it happen and turn and change because of the leadership of one brilliant guy and how many lives he's touched is phenomenal. A lot of untold stories with this. Long as the Lord gives me oxygen on this earth, when I get time, I'll tell the stories, because it's really, really interesting.
And I remember the draft. I can't tell you the year off the top of my head. I should have researched that. But when I saw the Chiefs trade up to 10, I'm like, are they going to get Patrick Mahomes? Because I was a Mahomes believer. Mm-hmm. I'd seen him up close. I had seen him keep a bad team in games and no defense, and he was outscoring people. The Mahomes Mayfield game, the Tech OU game, is one of the most chaotic in football history, college football history. When they grabbed him, I'm like, oh my. I knew he was good. Mitch, I had no idea he was this special. He just gets it. And boy, that's the missing ingredient. If you want to be a dominant franchise, you got to have that QB1 that leads the way.
And if you can find one with this personality, it's all the more. This isn't Brady. This is a phenomenal human being. People go, is he good? I go, it's better than you think. Now, the other thing that was really important for Pat was to have that apprentice year with Alex Smith.
Absolutely.
Because he was talented. We saw him gunsling, but winning 72-69 doesn't work in the NFL. And I love the way that Pat attacked that apprentice year. He absorbed everything. He realized, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I remember him asking me, I'd help inboard our rookies. And he goes, you've been around, man. How do you survive in this league? I go, first of all, who's this kid? Like this is the Texas Tech crazy 700-yard guy. I thought, okay, he's got a chance. But he locked into Alex. But then we surrounded him with Pat, with these NASA scientists, with Doug Peterson, with Matt Nagy, with Coach. And he was surrounded by all these guys. Brad Childress. These were some of the brightest minds in the NFL offensively that were with him every day. Matt Nagy was basically, I've given this analogy. He was playing Augusta. Patrick Mahomes played Augusta practice rounds every week for a year. That's what it felt like. And yet when I saw him at camp, it was here in St. Joseph. It was a red zone drill. I'm standing in the end zone, and he's running with the 2s against the 1s. And I saw there's a window about this big in the red zone at the back of the end zone. I go, he's not going to throw that. And it just went, and I was like, what did I just see? I turned and walked in the woods behind the practice field. And I go, I'm going to walk. I go, this is it. Like it's, he's here. And then to finally get the chance to play, and he's 17-4 in the playoffs. Stupid. He's stupid. So, but he's a terrific human being. He, like Coach, gets the human spirit. He's got a great group of inner circle guys that are his close confidants. From Tech, Tyler, Texas, White House. I've met some of these guys, and he's he's super smart. He weaves this whole team together. I've seen him I saw him the other day after a long drive drill. He goes over and pats the defensive guys on the butt. Man, you got us. And then he'll get them the next play. But he is such a huge part of what's happened here, way more than the stats or crazy left-handed throws or no-look throws. He really is taking coach's brain and soul and putting it into one of his players and having it permeate through the whole organization. Phenomenal cat.
How many more seasons does Mitch Holthus have in him?
I don't know. I'm in prayer about that. The thing that gets me is all the stuff I have to do, it's grown exponentially. And when you're involved as long as I have been involved, and the kingdom is vast. And one of the things I'm proud of starting the Junior Wildcat Club.
You should be.
And I'm proud of Chiefs Kingdom because that was mine. And so people say, are you getting a royalty off that? I'm like, no, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. But that wasn't the reason. It was to bind all this, to tie all this together. And so, but when you activate all these markets and then you start to grow globally and social comes into play, oh my gosh, it just goes. And the NFL does not sleep other than about a 2-week period in early July. Other than that, this thing just rolls. Different than college sports, although college is getting that way. But I don't know. I'm praying for the energy level, but I'm also praying for wisdom here, what to do and how to do it and how long to do it.
Plus, you're in the situation I am. Yeah, it's work, but God, it's great.
It's great.
Look what we get to do for a living. And even on those long trips, those long weekends, you're exhausted and you're like, I cover football for a living and basketball. What? It's crazy.
I'm around Travis Kelce. I'm around Patrick Mahomes. I'm around Chris Jones. I'm around Andy Reid. What? So after going through some bleak times, that'll be in the book too. But yes, it's enjoyable. This George Carlisle. I mean, this is a unique team, the closest thing to Camelot in professional sports, and we're the winningest team of MLB, NBA, and the NFL. We're 75 win percentage over a 10-year period. That's 3 years of Alex Smith, and that's not a coincidence. We have never had a losing season with Coach Reid, not one. And that's hard to do in the NFL. When you draft last, you get last waiver claim. But every day, not perfect, that's not perfect, but on the football side, every day is an incredible blessing. The 22 class, McDuffie, I go right down the line, Brian Cook, Karloftis, all those guys, Leo Chanel, you would hire every one of them, and you would work for every one of them. And we can't keep them all. They're all still here. Next year, they won't all be here. Can't do it. That's not the way it works in the NFL. And I'm kind of fired up about the 25 draft class because I'm seeing some glimpses in this class of that 22 class.
Awesome. Well, you're a busy man. You're at camp. You got things to do, and I appreciate you carving out some time for us. And I tell you what, let's do this again in the future. And let's all keep Greg Sharpe and the family in our hearts because what a special man.
Yeah, and you. I know you fought it, man. That's a tough battle. And let me say this, too. I'm a huge Chris Kleiman fan.
Yeah.
Huge Chris Kleiman fan, and let me tell you why. I get to over once a year, maybe. I cry every time I'm in that place. Last year, I got to open the door for the Arizona game.
Oh, yeah. I
wept before it. Saw the 48-0 over Oklahoma State when I thought Will Howard, NFL quarterback, and DJ Giddens is really good. But I went to Kleiman's first game. It was, I'll think of a second, Thibodaux, Louisiana. Anyway, I want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to talk to you or anybody else. Tammy and I were sitting at the 50-yard line. I just wanted to watch the sideline. Mm-hmm. It was so incredibly organized. And then I saw some of his substitution packages, stuff he runs, and I thought, he stole our iPad. K-State runs more than any team in the Big 12, more of the Chiefs stuff than most college teams that I see. And he is so organized, and their offensive schemes are very similar to Coach Reid's, very similar. Him also to navigate the NIL world, we would be lost if we didn't have this cat. And when people, I know the Houston, there's always been the Tulane game 2 years ago, the Houston game. But last year he had me speak to the team, and we had a silver shovel made of digging in, where everybody wants to be a free agent, everybody wants to go in IL. and that the great programs are those that can guys where they dig in. And I talked about all the examples of K-State football of guys who invested and stayed in that place and dug in. And we got a kid named Jalen Royals from Utah State here. He's such a K-State kind of kid. He stayed at Utah State, even though nobody recruited him. He blew up, stayed there, even though he was given NIL chances. He's like, no, man, I'm staying here. I'm going to dig in here. And so that's what Coach Kleiman has done. He's got an environment that you can dig into, but he runs NFL schemes, and he's just phenomenal for Kansas State to have as the head coach right now.
He is. He gets it. And even when the game changes, like NIL in the portal, he still gets it.
Yep.
And here's the best part. You noted this about the Chiefs. It certainly was Bill Snyder. The quality of character that he's recruiting. I haven't covered a crime situation with football in years.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Keep that thought. But yeah, heck yeah.
Great kids. And I just did one of my daily deliveries on DJ Giddens, and what a story. What a story he is. Mitch, I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. Go to your big time meeting in your dorm room.
Yeah, I've got one, but yeah, the cinder block walls. So just don't change the movie reel. All right. See ya.
Thanks, you buddy.
Thanks, bro.
And just like that, episode number 100 and the season finale of season 6 is in the books. I appreciate Mitch Holthus finding time for us. That was incredible. That was so cool. The stories are endless with Mitch, and I can't wait till he writes that book. Everyone needs to buy it when he does. But for him, he's got another season of Chiefs football. And while he might be nearing what would be retirement age, he's not going to. He's going to keep going for as long as he can. That's Mitch Holthus. He's constant energy. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate everyone who's watched these episodes. Some of them are really watched and some aren't, but I enjoy doing all of them. But this might be the last one. I honestly don't know. 100 episodes seems like a good point to stop, but I promise you this. If this discontinues, if I don't do Life of Fitz again, I will do some other type of podcast in the summer that might be more directly aimed at Kansas State sports. It's what you want. It's what I love talking about. And I would still have guys like Mitch Holthus on as soon as I fire that up. And men, as we close this season, please do me a favor. Remember, you need to get your PSA scored when you're 45 or older. Certainly if you've got a history of prostate cancer in your family or you're African American. 45 is your go date. It's just a simple blood test. Ask your doctor, demand your doctor, gives you a baseline score so you're set up if, and unfortunately when, something goes wrong with your prostate. The PSA score literally saved my life, and I didn't know what it was when I found out my PSA was too high. I don't want any of you to suffer from advanced prostate cancer because you didn't know to get your PSA scored. I'm telling you, don't mess around. And I'm not messing around. Me and the gang are getting ready to head to Dublin. We'll be there for a solid week, enjoying the sights and sounds and, yes, beer, before Kansas State plays Iowa State on August 23rd in Ireland. It'll be really cool. And, of course, it's time to transition to the PowerCat pregame podcast. And we will be back during game week with our first episode of the season with Brian Hanley and Cole Carmody alongside. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll talk to you real soon. I appreciate you listening to this week's edition of Life of Fitz, and thank you to all the great people at Blueville Nursery for sponsoring our show. This has been a Spirit Street production.